Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flizanes, your empowerment strategist and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about holding the space, what that means, if you know how to do it, if anyone's done it for you. It will be a solo show. Before I get into today's show, I do want to remind you that there are about 10 tickets left for Awaken Your Dream Life. And I would definitely recommend, after listening to this show today, if it speaks to you, to take that plunge, because we don't want to wait. We don't want to wait to be totally uncomfortable, because that's what happens. We learn our lessons when we're so uncomfortable that we are backed into a corner and want relief so badly, we're willing to get out of our comfort zone. And that's kind of what this episode today is going to address, about holding the space. And the reason why I wanted to talk about holding the space is because of the work that I'm doing with my group coaching, the work we do at the event, and then just knowing a lot of you guys out there who listen to the podcast, may or may not do any kind of therapeutic work. You feel better. Maybe you listen to Abraham, you listen to me, you listen to other people, you read your affirmations, and you get sort of into a space of telling yourself that I'm supposed to feel positive, I'm supposed to feel happy, and I'm supposed to problem solve everything and move forward and not allow any other emotions to seep out. And what has been really clear to me for many people is that most people don't know how to hold the space for others, let alone themselves. Okay, so let's back up and unpack what holding the space means. So if you can remember in your life, and it may be you that did it, or maybe it's a parent or a friend or a sibling, go back to your earliest memory of being sad or upset and how people around you treated you. Our emotions are our life force. And I never look at them as good or bad. Of course, there's sadness and fear, and worry, and those are uncomfortable, and they bring you out of alignment with who you are, but they're not bad. In fact, as you probably have heard on this show at some point in the last 8 years, our emotions are correlated with one of our organs in Chinese medicine. And we talked about that with the show with Catherine Rold. I've talked about the emotional body before on the show years ago, and probably more than one time, and it gets mentioned often. But when we look at our body and the organs in Chinese medicine, like lungs are grief, and your liver is anger, your kidneys are fear, your spleen is worry, your heart is joy. And when we look at the cycle of emotions that run through our body, we're built to cycle these emotions all day, every day. And to be honest, we probably go through a degree of these emotions every day. The problem becomes is when we have too much of one of them, and that energy gets stuck and it gets stagnant and it stops. And that can happen when you're repressing your emotions or you're unwilling to allow the negative. And when I think about some of the people that I'm thinking of who don't allow themselves to get angry or allow themselves to feel fear or to feel sad, there's an element of control. Because these emotions, for many people, scare you. They scare you. You want to let them out. Your body wants to let them out. You may not want to let them out. But you're afraid of what will happen if you do. And, we, in Abraham, in Law of Attraction, we talk about pivoting and acknowledging the emotion or moving away from it, thinking about things that you want. And that's all very true. But there's never really a denial of the opposite. And again, when we think about energy, when we have a negative emotion and we're focused on something and we have a lot of momentum built up in it, it's a very powerful force. It's creating for you. In fact, most of your creation comes out of negative emotion because it's literally fine-tuning and clarifying what you don't want and what you don't like. Where people get stuck is that when you don't allow it out and it holds you down, it creates more momentum, and you feel controlled by it. And now it's bigger and bigger, and you don't know what we'll do if you let it out. If we look at how we can pivot from there, how we can allow it to be, how we can release it, allow it space, and then from there, clarify, okay, what was that about? What do I need? What need do I have that's not being met? And how do I get that need met? And all this time I'm spending in this negative story, while it may be true, it is one point of view. It isn't the full truth. In fact, I'm here to tell you that most of your interpretations about your life and your past are wrong because they're one point of view only. And most of the time, it's about you being the victim to what happened to you. I have a story about a current client that I'm working with, and they have always looked at their past as having a father who didn't care to be around them. Father wasn't around, didn't know what to do when he was around. And with one pivot, with one different perspective, outlining love language, outlining abilities, outlining their own core wounds, that situation did a 180. And now this person feels love, feels like, oh my God, I see it everywhere now. When we tune ourselves to a different truth, to a different frequency, we now wonder why I never saw that before. One interpretation can drag you so far down for so many years and cause so many problems that I'm here to tell you, I bet you it's wrong. Because you're only seeing from your core wounds. You're not seeing it from their core wound or from their experience, or they're speaking a different love language than you are, and you're not receiving it. So when we come to the table with all these sort of stuck negative emotions, beliefs, and interpretations about our life, and repressed emotion, controlled emotion, and it's because we think that maybe what we fear is true, and it's not. I promise you it's not. The only person that you need to get right with is you, and maybe God, source, love, universe, creator. Okay? When you're in alignment, you're perfect. When you're out of alignment, you're judgmental, you're in fear, you're controlling, you're trying to hold energy instead of allowing energy. And that's this whole conversation about emotion. Emotion is energy. So until we get comfortable with emotional energy, then you'll always be a slave and a victim. It will always have power over you when you don't understand that it is your power. So I love watching, well, definitely female characters, but any character, but especially female characters. I'm watching a show on Netflix, and I remember, and I probably have told this story here, or at least I tell it to my groups, the Wonder Woman series, the new Wonder Woman series. There's a scene in the first movie where she, for the first time, sort of shows her power, if you will. And she walks across this enemy line where they're all firing at her because the villagers have not been able to cross it because they'll be attacked. And I cried the first time I saw it in the movie theater. Now, I was also sort of towards the end of my marriage, so I wondered if that was just an outlet. Because sometimes some of you will cry at a commercial. You'll be like, oh my God, why did that choke me up so much? Because you weren't trying to hold yourself back. It's like you have all of this pent up energy, and we just need the door to be open. And when you're not judging yourself, and when you're not trying to hold it back, and you've released resistance to it by a commercial or by a song, and all of a sudden you start crying and you think, what is wrong? Why am I crying right now? Because the door was open and the floodgates came flowing. It wasn't necessarily attached to the song or to the commercial. It was that you have all this pent up energy that you haven't allowed out. We just need to open the door. So when I saw the movie again with Doug years later, probably Thanksgiving 2020, actually, or December 2020, when we were homebound, so to speak, and watching a lot of movies and TV and stuff and having a good party, I was really curious to see if I'd cry again. And boy, did I cry again. Again and again. I was like, wow, it didn't change at all, my intensity of crying. And I'm thinking to myself, what does this mean? All right, fast forward, I'm watching a Netflix show about fairies and about, powerful beings and them coming into their power. And the last scene in the first season, like the finale, if you will, is the star, the main fairy of this show, her coming into her power, her full power, her transformation. I start crying again. And I'm like, okay, here's the theme. I think it's about not feeling fully expressed and allowing that full power. And I think so many of us are afraid of our own power. I've been reading this Marianne Williamson quote, poem, speech, a lot lately. I did it in my 3-month beta group. I've done it on a YouTube live that is now there and is a podcast in the Empower You podcast. And I want to share it with all of you. I'm sure many of you have heard this before, but in this topic, in this momentum and frequency, I want to share it again because I definitely have expanded and I know there's more. I know there's a lot more. And it doesn't mean it means it's louder or bigger for anybody else on the outside. It's about what I feel on the inside. So for those of you that have been with me for 8 years and who have seen me grown, there's a lot more coming. And it may not change a single thing that you can see. Maybe it's something you hear. But all of us have it. And all of us have this light and power inside of us. And I'm telling you, it's your emotions. Your emotions are your life force. They're why we're here, to experience them all. And we can't live our lives with our hearts closed for fear of feeling a negative emotion. Because when you close your heart, you close it to all emotion. You cannot get to joy. You cannot get to elation. You cannot get to pure unconditional love when your heart is closed. So here's the poem. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I hope you'll go back and listen to that again. I hope you'll find it. I hope you'll post it on your wall. I hope you'll write it. I hope you'll read it as a reminder to you that shrinking and not treating yourself well and being modest, that any of that helps anybody. It doesn't help anybody. All right, so let's bring it back to holding the space. What does holding the space mean? Everyone thinks it's this woo-woo thing about, I don't know, but I want to bust that myth and just be real clear. So go back to that memory that we talked about of when you had your first negative emotion, and what the people around you, what your caregivers or people around you did. How did they react to that emotion? And if as early on as you can remember, somebody shushed you or said, oh, no, don't cry. Here, look over here, and distracted you from that feeling, you were taught that that was bad, that having emotions were bad, that that's uncomfortable for other people. Don't do that. That might upset somebody else. Okay, I'm only laughing because of what I just said about it upsetting other people. In order for us to break that, in order for us to move out of that, in order for us to heal any of it, we have to learn how to hold the space for others and hold the space for ourselves and allow others to hold the space for us. Holding the space means that if I am having an emotion, that you allow me the space to have that emotion. Sounds simple, but most people don't do it. And most people don't do it, and you might be a culprit of this, because when I have pain and you have pain, and I would like to release my pain, but you are holding on to your pain and you don't want to release it, my pain evokes your pain. When somebody shushes you, when you shush others, when you want to stop people or soothe them from having pain, you rob them of the ability to express it, which means they're going to hold it, which creates anxiety, depression, cancer, dysfunction, lower back pain, neck pain, digestive issues, sleeping issues. But the reason why you do it, or the reason why people do it to you, is because they hold on so tightly to the control of these negative emotions sitting in their body that they don't want to be triggered by you. I remember when Doug's brother had passed away and we were back in Baltimore and there was drama. And I think I said something. I got upset about something. And his mother was like, okay, calm down. I said, I am not going to calm down. Now, prior to that, when we first got together and I was telling her about my marriage and my ex-husband, I started to cry. And boy, did that make her uncomfortable. And I love Doug's mother. She's amazing. She's 89. She is sharp as a tack. She's funny. I love her dearly. But she's not one, she's emotionally constipated. She doesn't share negative emotions except worry. So that is not, when we look at the balance of our bodies, we're built to process negative emotions. We have all these organs that are supposed to help us move this energy through our body. It's not supposed to get stuck. And when I cried, I was thinking to myself, look how vulnerable I'm being. Look how comfortable I am. Look at me opening up to you and sharing who I am and the pain that I have, not because I wanted her to have pain, but because I wanted her to know me. And she wanted to quickly shut me down because she's not a crier and she holds on real tight. Fast forward, now we're after David's Shiva and funeral, and I was mad about something. I was like getting passionate, if you will. Maybe I wasn't mad, but I was definitely opinionated and putting myself out there. And I was getting loud and how I get when I get excited. And she wanted to calm me down. I said, I will not calm down. If you have a problem with my energy, that is on you. I said it lovingly, but I did say that. I said, I will not calm down. You will not tell me if you have an emotion you want to express, I will be here for you to express it. But there are so many people in this world that will not allow you to express your feelings. So you've been conditioned to believe it is wrong or bad and that it upsets other people. Right, but it upsets other people because they have repressed stuff they haven't let out, and that is not on you. It is not your fault. It is not my fault that his mother has decided to shove, and Doug does this too, like sort of over positivity it, like don't feel it. I mean, he's so much better now. He had really high anxiety before, and now it's lower. It's still there, but I mean, we all have a certain level of anxiety sometimes when we're in a growth process or when I've had this energy and we talk about this in the work with the Big Leap and Upper Limits about the energy. Rather than assessing that it's negative emotion, get excited about what's being created, what's being called out of you, and see what happens. But the majority of people that have anxiety that I know are people that are repressing negative emotion because they don't want to look weak. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to let go of control. And I will tell you that I believe that in order to heal, you have to learn how to hold space for yourself, learn how to hold space for others, and ask other people to hold space for you without judgment. In order for us to release these emotions, release this energy, release this stress that literally is part of life. And the reason why it's here is to grow you, to fine-tune you, to build up a charge of what it is that you do desire. And then it's your job to unburden yourself of these emotions, to get into alignment with who you are so you can manifest the things that you want. When you are in denial about your negative emotions, about your sadness, about your anger, about your fear, because you judge it, you only slow yourself down from having what you want and feeling the way you want to feel. It's simple, yet hard. I know. Although I'm not afraid of my emotions. That's the benefit of being a Pisces. And so is that if I cry, I'm like, oh, thank God. It's because like I'm thinking I might need a good cry here in the next couple of days because I've been feeling some energy build up. And whether it be something in my own life or Mercury in retrograde, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I'm feeling a little bit of stuck energy that needs to be released. I always say to people, if you're not screaming or crying like every 3 to 4 months, you're emotionally constipated. Because this is part of who you are. This is your superpower. So in that fairy Netflix show that I'm watching, like the great lesson of their teachers is that, it's that your negative and positive emotions are where your power lie. It's a great message about being who you are, expressing who you are, and utilizing who you are. Not necessarily to manipulate others or to get something, because there's a fine line there, because there are many people who cry all the time. Because they've learned that if I cry, I'm in crisis and I get upset, you will give me love and attention. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking mostly to those of you who can't cry or don't cry or don't be because you're too busy being a workaholic or whatever addiction you have, TV, I don't know, drugs or alcohol, or numbing yourself with, with recreational drugs, or always being in a state of numbness. You overeat, I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of addiction. You're on your phone constantly. You can't put it down. You can't detach. Whatever keeps you spinning and not being, not sitting in your thoughts and your physical feelings is something that you use to try to find relief. I mean, it's very normal, but it isn't healthy. And in today's world where we are bombarded with very fast moving energies of information, of videos, of social media, of messaging, of opinions, it's just a lot. And what's coming up in a couple of weeks, at the end of October, I interviewed a past client of mine, and we talked about his book and his TV show and sort of the coming back to, and how we both can see where we're coming back to the simplicity. We have to remember we've got so far away from our own energetic composition and how simple we are as humans. We are expanding every day in our consciousness. We get smarter, more in tune. We are on high flying discs all the time. But that comes at a price when you think that you're going to keep up with that physically, because then that takes you out of your body into your brain. And our body is here to remind us that we're just human. We're just human. We need water. We need food. We need safety. We need shelter. We need connection. We need space. When is the last time someone held space for you? Most of you know I'm not a fan of traditional talk therapy. Again, like I said, I've said many times, if it works for you, awesome, excellent. And how you'll know that is if you are different in the same situation and your life looks different and you vibrate differently, you manifest differently. That's how you know if it's working. But I also can see how some people want to go to a therapist in order to talk about what's going on with them, because that's a safe place that someone's holding space for you, because that's what they're there to do. Not get triggered, not calm you down, not tell you not to have those emotions. They're there to validate your emotions. And that's fine. And that has value until you don't look at what's underneath that and what the problem is and how to solve it, so you don't end up back in the same story over and over again. But what about your friends and family? I think one of the reasons why I started doing live events, I remember 2018. So I held the very first live event in 2018 called Releasing What Weighs You Down. And that came out of people finding spirit, purpose, and energy after I launched it in late October, beginning of November 2016. By 2017, I had a list of people who had already reached out to me to tell me that this work was changing their life. And I thought, whoa, okay, that's a surprise. Didn't expect that, because I had nothing to sell anybody. I had nothing to give anybody. I had nothing to teach anybody except what was on the show. So I brought people together, and I got to meet a lot of you in these groups and hear what you were struggling with, hear what you were dealing with, and hear how this information was definitely making a change. But I could still feel that there was a block and there was something like that was not enough. I wanted to pull people out of their comfort zones into a space to do the work and hold the space for each other, which means a bunch of people who are not attached to your story, who can hear you say anything, allow you to cry, scream, be, and accept you for that, is something most of us don't get in our normal lives. If you do, congratulations, you're one of very few. Most of us have family issues, spouse issues, certain work friends or friend issues because you're afraid to show them who you really are, because you don't want to lose the connection. That's why I started doing these, because I wanted to create a space to allow you to grow and feel supported and hold the space for you and have you learn how to hold the space for others. One of my clients who wouldn't allow herself to break down about her own life has allowed herself to cry incessantly for everybody else. And again, like I said, as long as the door is open and the energy is moving through it, it doesn't really matter what it's about. But I find it very refreshing. I find it very useful that can happen. That even though you're not willing to maybe look at your own life and really break down and let it out about your own life. But if you let it out because you're hearing somebody else's story, that's great. Again, we're going to unburden some of that energy that you're trying to hold on to because it's hurting you. It's not helping you. When you're comfortable with your emotions, all of your emotions, when you are comfortable in righteous anger, when you are comfortable being sad, knowing that the storm will pass, that it's not going to wreck you, it's not going to destroy you, you have the choice. I know that for a lot of people, some people's emotions, especially with men, and so if you're a man listening to this is no disrespect for you, it's what you've been taught. Emotions in women seem self-indulgent, or at least that's what has been told to you. So you've learned how to stuff it all because you don't want to seem weak, you don't want to seem like a woman, and that's no judgment towards women. But in general, let's look back in history. So when a woman has a lot of emotional energy, most people, even women, can't deal with it. It's scary. It taps into the people around you, the unhealed parts of you, which makes you uncomfortable. But imagine getting to the place where you can be with a loved one and allow them to scream and get angry and allow it all out. Literally dumping the trash, detoxing the body, getting it all out, cleaning it all out, spring cleaning their entire body out of all negative emotion. And you just standing there lovingly, heart open, even if they're blaming you, knowing that this is serving them and you so they can feel their full potential. They can feel their full power and they can hear themselves and they can let it out and they can finally unburden themselves of everything they're holding on to. Imagine being there. And that's the goal. That's what all of this work that I'm doing, at least, is to do. It's to allow you and me to hold the space for others, and then to ask for it when we need it. I remember having a coaching session with Dr. Cherie Carter Scott, and it was maybe a year and a half ago. And I was feeling icky and sort of rejected, or just I was sad. And I thought I wasn't able to work it out myself. I sat with it for a while. I worked with it, but I couldn't let it out. I couldn't get to it. I talked to Doug about it, and I had the session with her, and within 45 minutes, I had identified what the link was, what the core wound was, what the story was, and it was about my marriage, and it was stuff that I had not forgiven myself for. Still, I was holding on to it, and I was projecting it onto other people. And so while she and I did more of the mental analysis of it, I still needed the emotional expression. And I love her, and we weren't going to have the time for emotional expression because it was only an hour session. But at 45 minutes, I was crystal clear about what it was. So then what I did is I asked Doug, hey, will you do the couples dialogue with me? I don't need you to participate. I just need you to hold the space. And he said, of course. So we did it after dinner. In the couples dialogue, it's a script, and they're like 3 pages, I think. And we have our 2 printed copies that we always use when we come together to do this. And so I just had him read his side and ask me the questions and reflect back to me. And I allowed myself the space to cry. And I kept searching for scenarios and memories and things that would just keep digging and digging until all of it was out of me. And then I sort of did a little bit of a release process afterwards to sort of close it up and clean it up. But I gave myself as much time as I needed. There was no time frame. We weren't on a deadline. It was after dinner. And I just needed him to help me and be there for me and hold the space for me to cry and allow it out and to process it out loud. How many of you do that? It's important that you have somebody in your life or people in your life that will A, do that for you, but B, that you will do that for you, that you will ask for that. Hey, I'm feeling icky. I'd like to cry or get mad, or hey, I feel like I've got some anger that I want to have come out, but I don't know how to get to it. How can I help get to it? So when you think about your self-processing emotions, when you think about yourself or others, remember that when you share an emotion with somebody and they react negatively, most of the time it's because you've touched a wound within them. I want you to remember that it's not about you. Their reaction to you, they're trying to control you, or you trying to control others, because it may be you doing it, is because you don't want to feel that. So you're blocking it. And that's not fair to them, and it's not fair to you. in my opinion. In order for you to transform and to heal, you have to be comfortable holding the space for others. And even if you get slightly triggered, learning how to handle that. Maybe making a mental note of, that sort of bothers me. Well, that's something I have to work on and evaluate, right? Because life mirrors you. If something someone's saying literally triggers you, it's not about you and it's not about them. It's about the wound you already have inside of you. So my goal for you, my wish for you, I guess I can't really have a goal because it's not my life. But my wish for you is that you will learn and value how to hold the space for yourself. And sometimes that could mean, I remember back years ago, one of my clients, Susan, I hope Susan still listens, we did an episode about emotional detoxing, and you're welcome to go back and find that. It was a couple years ago, probably 2017, 2018. And we talked about emotional detoxing because I felt like she had a lot of stuck, repressed emotion, and we created a whole day of how she was going to unearth it, how she was going to dig for it, allow it, express it so she could release it and feel lighter and better and freer. And it required a couple, like a whole day. I mean, I even told her what to eat and when not to eat. And, we had a sort of the process, and it was like a personalized emotional detoxing session that we put together for her. But one of the most impactful things that I've seen work on deeper levels, because it satisfies our need to be seen and heard and our connection and our feeling connected in the world, as if what you're going through is not unique. And that's not to disrespect you, but we all have the same 100 emotions. We all have the same 85 basic human needs. The stories change, the reactions and interpretations change, but ultimately we are feeling beings, and we want to feel good, and we want to feel happy, and we want to feel inspired. Everybody, remember, and say this to yourself every day. The only reason you want what you want is because you think you'll feel better when you have it. Well, as we know, you have to feel it before you can have it. So let's start practicing holding the space for ourselves to allow ourselves to dump out, to clean out, to empty out all of the things that don't serve us, that block us from our greatness, block us from our path, block us from our intuition. And if you don't know how to do that, you don't know how to hold the space for yourself or others, please come to Awaken Your Dream Life. Every event I do has an element of holding the space, for sure, 100%. Just coming alone, if you get nothing out of it, you will feel seen and heard. You will feel connected. You will feel inspired. You will leave changed, because you will look at the world differently, because you will know and trust you are not alone, and that you are not unique, meaning you are unique. You are very unique, but you're not unique in your pain, that we all have pain, and we all want to alleviate that pain. But we also want to use that pain as potential, as we talked about on the show with Catherine, the pain paradox, leveraging that pain as potential. And how do I do that? And when do I ask for support? So if you've felt unsupported, if you have felt unseen, if you feel lonely or alone, please, there's about 10 tickets left. Come to Awaken Your Dream Life. As I say every year, I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I don't know. Life, I have a lot of things going on. I have really fun things I'm going to announce before the end of the year. And depending on what direction that takes me, I don't know what will happen next year. Will I do another live event again? Sure. Will it be next year? I don't know. Will it be this one? I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen. So please don't think and trust that JJ is going to do this again and again and again, or that I'll just go next year. Unless you are doing great and you don't need any help. In that case, then awesome. I celebrate your successes and your expansion. But if you are suffering, if you want more than you have right now, if you keep putting this off year after year, thinking, I'll go sometime in the future. Again, life changes. Who knows what's going to happen? Like I said, I can't guarantee it. I never can. None of us can. None of us can guarantee where we're going to be next year. You do not know what's going to happen or what your life path looks like moving forward. So I just urge you to carpe diem and seize the day and get your butt to Awaken Your Dream Life. There is no virtual ticket. While I would like to sell them, I have realized over the years that they don't work. you get some information, but most people that buy a virtual ticket realize that the one thing they learn is they need to be at the live event. That's where the change happens. That's where the shifts happen. That's where stuff will happen that you don't even know it's going to happen because you haven't ever been in the situation before. So if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, please get your ticket. jjflizanes.com/dreamlife. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to support you. We'd love to hold the space for you and allow you to unburden yourself from stuff you've been carrying that you don't need, that weighs you down and that stops you from achieving any kind of result, whether it be happiness, money, love and relationships, success in different ways, courage, self-esteem, whatever it is that you want more of, wherever it is you want to go, whatever your next 5, 10, 20 years looks like. And you know that you've been repeating patterns and you're ready to be done. I hope today has been beneficial for you. I also want to announce I have a new website. jjflizanes.com is new, and we have merchandise. So if you don't come to the event, go over to jjflizanes.com, go to the Engage tab, scroll down to merch, and buy yourself a mug. Buy yourself a mug that says Dream Big, so that every day when you have your coffee or your tea or your water, you think of me in your ear telling you to dream big. Dream big. Believe in yourself. Stretch further. Love you.